Hello and welcome to our English news edition coming to you from Canal, Algérie. First, to the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, congratulates the children of Algeria via his Twitter account on the occasion of the International Children's Day. The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Abdelmajid Tebboune, presents his most sincere condolences to the family of the deceased Major General Namous Hamidou. The burial ceremony of the former Minister Advisor to the Ministry of Communication, official spokesman of the Presidency of the Republic, Bel'aid Mohamed Oussaid, took place at Sidi Yahya Cemetery here in Algiers, and during the oration made on the occasion, the late's qualities and his rich career were highlighted. As a representative of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdelrahman will take part on the 2nd and 3rd of June in a high-level international meeting on the environment due to be held in Stockholm, Sweden. Good evening, those were the headlines. First, now today's news, and on the occasion of the International Children's Day, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, congratulated the children of Algeria via his Twitter account, saying, "Happy Eid to all Algeria's proud children. On the occasion of their International Day, I renew my commitment with determination to work relentlessly to provide all the appropriate conditions for a safe future for our children, the leaders of tomorrow." On the International Children's Day, Algiers Oval Hall hosted the National Championship of the Academy of Brilliant Children, which was a space to compete in mental arithmetic with the participation of nearly 1,200 children in a competitive atmosphere. The details with Mana Amari.
These young minds can complete 120 to 140 correct mental calculations in 10 minutes. Mental calculations are a competition for these young children, and this time their goal is to go to the National Brilliant Children's Academy Championship. We are honored with the care that we received from the President of the Republic. We try to bring programs that develop children's abilities, and mental calculation is part of these programs, which has great benefits, and that is why it gained popularity in Algeria. This Academy's achievements were showcased in the triumph of its outstanding young competences in the International Mental Calculations Competition held in Dubai, who were honored by the President of the Republic. This was furthermore displayed in the improvement of the students' education level. The winners of this edition are nominated to participate in the upcoming International Mental Calculation Competition and are expected to honor Algeria once again. The Algerian scientist and inventor Belqasim Habba is rightfully entitled to be an example to follow by these young children. This impression reached all participants through a video he sent to the competition to motivate them.
Following the death of Major General Namous Hamidou at the Army's Central Hospital here in Algiers, the President of the Republic, Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Abdelmajid Tebboune, presented his most sincere condolences to the family of the deceased, as well as to the National People's Army's personnel. For his part, the Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Saeed Shingariha, presented on his behalf and on behalf of the National People's Army's personnel his sincere condolences to the family of the late Major General Namous Hamidou, who passed away after a long illness, praying Allah Almighty to welcome him in his vast paradise. The former Minister Advisor to the Ministry of Communication, official spokesman of the Presidency of the Republic, Bel'aid Mohamed Oussaid, was buried on Wednesday afternoon. During the funeral's oration made by the official spokesman of the Presidency of the Republic, Samir Aggoun highlighted the qualities of the late, notably his numerous contributions for the good of the country, as well as his rich journalistic, diplomatic and political career.
أيها الجمع الكريم، إننا نودع اليوم أخا فاضلا ووطنيا صادقا ومناضلا فذا لم يتوانى في خدمة الوطن والدولة بتفان وإخلاص وكفاءة. تنم عن نظرة ثاقبة في شؤون إدارة الدولة. لقد عرف الفقيد بدماثة الخلق وصدق الكلمة وحصافة الرأي، وكان إعلاميا مقتدرا سخر قلمه وصوته لإعلاء كلمة الوطن وصون إرادته وحماية الثوابت الوطنية، وهو الذي ساير مراحل بناء الدولة في حقب مختلفة في مراكز المسؤولية وبخاصة الإعلامية منها، حيث جعلها أداة توعية في كل أبعادها السياسية والثقافية لتجسيد أهداف ثورة نوفمبر المجيدة في بناء دولة وطنية سيدة في إطار هوية الجزائر. أيها الجمع المهيب، لقد كانت مسيرة الفقيد حافلة بالعطاء المتواصل، وهو الذي عرف بالجدية والمثابرة في كل المهام التي أنيطت به والمسؤوليات التي تقلدها، وكان مثال الجزائري الملتزم بقضايا الوطن المنافح عنه بالقلم والكلمة، التي تحمل حكمة وتبصرا نابعتين من رزانة ورصانة تميز بها جيل خدم الجزائر في أحلك الظروف. لم تلن له قناة ولم يتغير، وبقي راسخا في قناعاته التي أهلته لتبوء المسؤوليات الهامة في خدمة الجزائر وطنا ودولة. إن قلوبنا تعتصر حزنا وألما على فراق أخ نحسبه من الصادقين، وما أصعبها لحظة حين يقف الإنسان مؤبنا غاليا عليه. فنم قرير العين سمحند سعيد يا من صنع من حياته المهنية فسيفساء من الوظائف والمهام، بدأها صحفيا ومذيعا للأخبار، فمديرا لأم الجرائد الشعب، إلى دبلوماسي مثل الجزائر أحسن تمثيل، إلى وزير للإعلام، وظللت متساوقا مع قناعاتك حتى وأنت تمارس السياسة من خلال حزبك، واضعا مصلحة الوطن فوق كل اعتبار، ينطلق منها وينتهي إليها ولا يتردد في أي موقف يؤمن به ويراه صائبا. لذلك ولغيره كان اختيار رئيس الجمهورية السيد عبد المجيد تبون لك مسندا إليك 3 مهام حساسة قلما اجتمعت في شخص واحد: وزيرا، مستشارا، وناطقا رسميا، وكنت أهلا لذلك. إن فراقك أيها الغالي أليم، وفاجعتنا كبيرة، ومصيبتنا عظيمة، ولكن مواساتنا في قول ربنا: وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون.
The burial ceremony of the former minister, advisor to the Ministry of Communication, official spokesman of the Presidency of the Republic, Bil'aid Mohand Oussaid, took part on Wednesday afternoon at Sidi Yahya Cemetery here in Algiers in the presence of his family members as well as prominent political and media figures.
اللهم اعف عنه وعافه وأكرم نزله ووسع مدخله واغسله بالماء والثلج والبرد ونقه من الخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس، وأبدله دارا خيرا من داره، وأهلا خيرا من أهله، وزوجا خيرا من زوجه، وقه فتنة القبر وعذاب النار، وأدخله الجنة مع الأبرار، يا حليم يا غفار.
In his capacity as a representative of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman will take part on the 2nd and 3rd of June in a high-level international meeting on the environment due to be held in Stockholm, Sweden, under the theme Stockholm Plus 50, a healthy planet for the prosperity of all, our responsibility, our opportunity. This meeting, organized by the United Nations, aims to encourage the adoption of green recovery plans after COVID-19 and to serve as a springboard to accelerate the implementation of the UN's Decade of Action in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. The Stockholm Plus 50 meeting will commemorate the 50th anniversary of the 1972 United Nations Conference on the Human Environment and celebrate 50 years of global environmental action. Algeria's participation in this international meeting supports its commitments to the environment, an important issue, particularly for the continent. Letizia Stqawi has more.
Please help the world.
Saving the world from the risks of climate change is an arduous journey. A reason why the Stockholm Summit is back 50 years after the first United Nations meeting on the environment, putting on the table several challenges and responsibilities. A crucial meeting in which Algeria will take part as one of the countries that have adopted all the international conventions aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions and global warming. Algeria has even advocated accelerating its proposal to create a fund to support measures to combat the negative impacts of climate change, a proposal that was adopted by the Peace and Security Council of the African Union. Algeria will take advantage of the holding of the Stockholm Conference to reiterate its position and to recall that the treatment of climate issues depends on the respective developed countries for their historical responsibilities, while taking into consideration the differences between these countries and developing countries and the confirmation of Algeria's fidelity to its commitments as presented through its national climate program for the period 2020-2030. Algeria is one of the first countries to have made environmental protection a priority through the launch of the Green Dam, a project launched decades ago in which Algeria is now working to relaunch and expand. The fight against climate change is one of the challenges that Algeria has met through its global development strategies through pragmatic approaches aimed at consolidating the foundations of international cooperation to combat this phenomenon.
In other news, the Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Arqab, chaired over the installation ceremony of Rashdi Minadi as the new chairman of the National Authority for Nuclear Safety and Security. This position was created for the first time in implementation of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune's instructions. The agency has tasks of drafting legislation and regulations related to nuclear activities, in addition to issuing licenses and monitoring nuclear installations and activities using radiation sources. On Tuesday, the Energy Minister Mohamed Arqab co-chaired with his Tunisian counterpart Neila Nouira Gounji the proceedings of the Algerian-Tunisian Bilateral Committee on Energy and Mines. This latter has been sanctioned by a report that provides the continuation of discussions and consultations on the request for increased contractual volumes of natural gas deliveries, the quantities of liquefied petroleum gas and butane gas to meet the Tunisian demand. It also includes the examination by the Algerian side of measures to strengthen the joint venture in the upstream oil between the Algerian National Oil and Gas Company, Sonatrach, and the Tunisian Company for Oil Activities. Furthermore, the examination of cooperation prospects in the mining field, namely the transformation of phosphate products, as well as the renewable energy sector, in addition to the request for the development of interconnection capacities to strengthen the electrical system, were also discussed. It is worth noting that these requests and agreements will be submitted to the President of the Republic. The International Children's Day is celebrated in Algeria in the light of the efforts made to consolidate the achievements in terms of protection and promotion of childhood. On this occasion, a seminar was organized by the Culture Ministry under the chairmanship of the Minister of Culture, Soraya Moulouj, under the theme, The Best Interests of the Child, Issues and Challenges. This seminar took place in the presence of the Minister of Youth and Sports, Abdelrazak Sibgag, the Minister of Relations with the Parliament, Basma Azwar, the National Delegate for the Promotion of Children's Rights, Maryam Sharfi, as well as other executives. Still with the International Children's Day festivities, the new president of the Algerian Red Crescent made her first media appearance. Ibtisam Hamlawi went to Algiers hospitals where she offered gifts and toys to the children. In another development, the General Director of the National Security, Farid Ben Sheikh, discussed with his Italian counterpart, Lamberto Giannini, ways to strengthen the mechanisms of police cooperation between Algeria and Italy. Farid Ben Sheikh began his working visit to the General Directorate of the Italian Police on May the 29th and 30th and held talks with his Italian counterpart, which were later on extended to the police delegations of both countries. In another context, units and detachments of the National People's Army carried out operations that led to high-quality results, reflecting thus the high professionalism, vigilance and permanent availability of our armed forces. More details with Rania Al-Bahri.
As part of the fight against terrorism, detachments of the National People's Army have discovered and destroyed in Tibet and Kikda provinces 3 homemade bombs. Within the framework of the fight against organized crime and in continuity of intense efforts aiming at thwarting the scourge of drug trafficking in our country, combined detachments of the National People's Army have arrested in coordination with the various security services at the level of the 2nd and the 3rd military regions 3 drug traffickers and thwarted attempts to introduce large quantities of drugs across the borders with Morocco, amounted to 6 quintals and 36 kilograms of cannabis, whereas 26 other drug traffickers were arrested while in possession of more than 118 kilograms of the same substance and 41,627 psychotropic tablets during various operations carried out through the other military regions. Other detachments of the National People's Army intercepted in Tamnarast, Borjbaji Mukhtar, Ingizam, Janet and Tindouf provinces 183 individuals and seized 19 vehicles, 229 generators, 117 jackhammers and detonation tools used in illegal gold panning operation, while 4 other individuals were arrested. 3 hunting rifles, 1 automatic gun, and 36,464 packets of tobacco were seized in Wergla, El-Wed, Amenas, and Satif provinces. Similarly, the border guards thwarted with the National Security Services attempts to smuggle quantities of fuel amounting to 61,248 liters in Tamnarast, Adrar, Tibisa, Taraf, and Suqahras provinces. In another context, the Coast Guard thwarted at the level of our national coasts attempts of illegal immigration and carried out the rescue of 17 individuals on board craft-built boats, while 324 illegal immigrants of different nationalities were arrested across the national territory.
Military attacks were carried out by the Sahrawi Liberation Army against the Moroccan occupation forces along the Wall of Shame, causing them considerable material and human losses, and the units of the Sahrawi Liberation Army targeted positions of the Moroccan soldiers in the Mahbas sectors. State of emergency declared in Morocco. The regime uses the health emergency to violate the rights of Moroccans. Al-Makhzen regime is trying by all means to stop the popular discontent. More details with Rania Al-Bahri.
According to Moroccan Association for Human Rights, the Makhzen regime uses all means to cover daily violations and uses the state of health emergency as a legal cover to consolidate the normalization with the Zionist entity and silencing all the discordant voices against the government and the policy of the king. During a meeting, the National Office strongly condemned these violations, especially after the ban of the Great March that was launched by the Moroccan Social Front last Sunday to protest against the price hike, while ensuring its support for the Moroccan Social Front and its legitimate struggle. The Moroccan Association for Human Rights denounced the violation and the use of repression against citizens, as well as the arbitrary arrests of demonstrators. Thus, the Moroccan Association for Human Rights shows its dissatisfaction against the repressive practices in Morocco at the time of the normalization with the Zionist entity, which is deaf to the Zionist aggression made in the occupied Palestinian territories.
Peaceful Moroccan protesters who are demanding the right to a decent life are repressed by the forces of the repressive Makhzen regime that uses violence to silence them. Leticia Sedqawi has the details.
This is a regime that is ready to go to any length to silence the Moroccan people's protests, who are demanding a decent life in a country plagued by several social scourges and became a narco state a long time ago, which threatens the entire region's stability. According to observers, Morocco even surpassed the drug dependency model of certain Latin American countries and is now surviving thanks to its narco economy. The Makhzen is known for its coercive policy, and images of protesters getting attacked are seen almost daily. Moroccans took to the streets once again to peacefully express their distress and to denounce the outrageous living costs, restrictions of freedoms, and the normalization with the Zionist entity, which were violently suppressed by the Makhzen regime's security forces. A ferocious repression that resulted in a number of wounded demonstrators whose only crime was to demand the right to a decent life. The Makhzen regime wants to silence protesters at any cost and did not hesitate to exploit its army to trample its people and deny their rights. It must be noted that the long series of betrayal and conspiracy of the throne are no longer a secret, expressed by the insidiousness of a regime that turned its back to its people for its own interests. And historical facts burden the Makhzen and its army, who sided with the monarchy. Despite the repression driven by the Makhzen regime, Moroccans are still determined to continue their long-term struggle, and nothing seems to stop them. They intend to keep pressure through a national strike in the field of higher education that will start on June 7th. A movement that is part of the cycle of protests that started a while ago by professors and researchers against the rejection of dialogues by the tutelage with the National Office of the Trade Union of the sector. The popular discontent is not about to calm down. Other protests were planned in other sectors of activity.
Back to national news, a sponsorship agreement was signed between the phone operator Mobilis and the Organization Committee of the Mediterranean Games of Oran, a financial support which aims to lead our athletes to honor Algeria in the next Mediterranean Games. Najah Tayyar has more.
The Organization Committee of the Mediterranean Games and the telephone operator Mobilis have signed a cooperation convention to sponsor 4 Algerian athletes as an ambassador in the Games, a support that allows our athletes to better prepare for the Games. This is very beneficial for the athletes. It will help us prepare in the best condition and be at the top. Being sponsored by a major national company is a strong support that will be a good help for us to prepare even for the Olympic Games in Paris on 2024. The partnership with Mobilis is an impulse for us to be well prepared and ready to achieve the best titles in both Mediterranean and Paris Games of 2024. We have ensured the financial support required to guarantee the success of this large-scale event and allow our athletes to hoist the Algerian flag high and proudly. We know that our athletes will be among the best in these games, which are also a chance to prepare for the Olympic Games in Paris. Through this sponsoring, the telephone operator wishes to support and promote the elite of the Algerian athletes that are participating in this massive Mediterranean sport festival.
And with this, our today's news edition comes to a close. Thank you for tuning in.